Good afternoon and welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz. It's afternoon tea and today I'm joined with Leese from NOCLS, and she is the Senior Resource Coordinator. She will be sharing on how this organization got started and how they make a difference in people's lives, sharing their fundraising events as well, because they do quite a few of fundraising events. So Crystal, I'm going to give you the stage and share away on your incredible organization.
All right. Thanks, Miss Liz. I am really excited about this opportunity, and so I have made myself some notes just to try and keep myself on track. So I have lots to share. So NOCLS is the North Okanagan Community Life Society. Started back in 1984 with innovative roots, and I feel like we just continue on this path. We started with a group of parents whose children were coming out of institutions at that time, and were told that their children didn't qualify for the next best thing based on their vulnerabilities. So the next best thing at that time was group homes, being supported through host agencies. And so this group of parents came together and they set out to reintegrate their children back into community, which their children had lost out on and been taken from when they lived in institutions. And so that's how NOCLS started. And in the early 90s, we had a new executive director come in. And so he was really set to explore the next best way of supporting people in the community to find purpose, belonging, and build genuine relationships. And so he started using our existing funding as an organization to move people out into their own homes. So instead of living in multi-person situations where they didn't necessarily choose who they were living with, we used the existing funding to move people out into their own homes and provide staffing one-to-one on 24/7 basis. So we used to have a day program and things like that we slowly integrated people into community one-on-one with funding. So fundraising was a huge piece and important in being able to purchase homes, purchase furniture, additional things that funding didn't cover at the time. So NOCLS really strived to support people in typical ways to access their community based on interests, and with a strong belief that segregated communities do not create inclusion. And so we used our funding to empower people in their lives with respect, choice, and control, and really giving people an opportunity to direct their own supports, what support they wanted, and how they wanted to spend their days. Our approach wasn't really compatible with the existing funding model. And so we did struggle a bit with being able to provide individualized support within traditional services. So in December 2013 is when I actually joined the organization. I moved from Manitoba, and with me I brought experience actually working in the individualized funding model. So seeing how individualized funding could truly benefit people's lives, and seeing how relationships were integral in our quality of life. And so, relationships really require space that include all and that we see others' strengths. And genuine relationships are truly our greatest safeguard for all people. When we care about other people, our qualifications aren't as important. When somebody is in need, we would step up and do whatever we need to do to take care of that person. When we have genuine relationships with people, they notice when things about us aren't right and start asking those questions and start looking into maybe what needs more support in our lives. People who are already vulnerable to the support that they receive, those genuine relationships truly are the greatest factor in their quality of life. And so in December 2014, we ended all of our contracts with funders. And so we had a strong belief in the strength of custom-built service delivery and how that could benefit people's lives. And so in January 2015, our next journey really began as an organization with no government funding. And
wow.
So we continue to operate today with no government funding. We continue to operate as a small organization, and we support families and people who have individualized funding or are wanting individualized funding. So helping people through that process. We have a mutually beneficial relationship with families and people. They can choose to work with us or not work with us. And we provide our experiences, our knowledge, our values, and we also learn from each of their stories that they share with us, and in turn how we can help somebody else from that information that they share with us. So we own currently about 12 properties.
Oh,
and
wow.
So we provide housing. Providing housing to people with disabilities has always been at the forefront of what we do. And going forward, it's an area where we really need to look at expanding. Funding limitations are always increasing. Housing affects all populations of segregated people. And so we want to look at how can we continue to provide housing within a minimal amount of money that people get for housing, and still operate as an organization without any funding. So, our history has allowed us to bring us to where we are today, and it is also inspiring us for our future going forward and how we continue to support people. We provide administrative support to societies. So within whatever they are funded, whatever they are budgeted for, we provide administration with their payroll, scheduling, finding staff, things like that. My role is, my official title is a senior resource coordinator. So I'm really a support to the entire team. I'm a support to the person being supported. I'm a support to the staff. And I'm a support to the support network. So the family and friends who are really around that person, helping manage their day-to-day life. And so, I am here to support everybody and trying to navigate the, different roles and working together as a team. For staff, seeing their role deeper than just caring for people's basic needs. Seeing people as whole people with goals and dreams just the same. And how do we tap into those goals and dreams and make them reality for people? And so as an organization, we help families and people through a really difficult process of getting their funding in place. Services are deficit-based system. It's, based on their child's limitations. And so that can be really difficult and challenging for parents. And yet then we take that information, we get their funding, and we use that funding to then have the best quality of life for their child.
So Crystal, is this organization only in BC or is it all over?
We are only in BC, yeah. We're actually right in the Okanagan. We're actually quite small. We are starting to expand a little bit outside of our immediate community, but again, it's families that come to us. We really don't, when we're supporting people's lives, things aren't so black and white. So where we help is where people want us to help. There aren't so many limitations on what we can do and can't do because we don't have that string of funding. We're able to walk alongside families in their path a lot easier. And so then taking that funding and getting the best quality of life means, removing barriers or thinking outside of the box, increasing people's independence so that in theory, we are lessening their need for support where possible, and truly empowering people one person at a time. And so I thought I would share a little bit about my story from here, where I've come to get to where I'm at. Mm-hmm. So back in 2010 is sort of when I started a 2-year program at the college called Disability and Community Support. And that course really started my own journey of independence and finding my purpose in life and in this field. And so through that college program, I was able to do sort of 4 practicum placements. So one was working in a group home, which was run by a host agency. Another opportunity was working in a recreational day program. So it was based on sort of who showed up that day and sort of go out and for the day, try to spend as little money as possible. I might be with 3 or 4 people for that day that may not like each other, may not have any of the same interests. It was very difficult to get to know people one-on-one and build on who they were. I then was able to do a practicum in the school system, so as an educational assistant, which was the reason I went to school, thinking I wanted to be an educational assistant. And in that practicum, I realized that I just wasn't, it wasn't the place for me. There wasn't as much value or knowledge of inclusive classrooms. The impact of me being next to a child all day, how that would impact them in building relationships with other children of their age. I had a lot of knowledge of that, but it wasn't necessarily known for all. And so, again, I didn't feel like I could really make a difference in each child's life. And so my final practicum is really where I found my place and was supporting people one-on-one. And it's really where I found my passion for people. And I worked with an organization who does very similar to what I'm doing now here in BC, back in Manitoba. They are funded resource coordinators to support people who have individualized funding. And so I had the opportunity of really seeing how individualized funding could benefit people one-on-one. And I followed that passion of working one-on-one. I worked lots of different contract jobs. I, sacrificed having a stable income, a stable Monday to Friday job because it was my passion and I really wanted to work one-on-one and with people. So I did some direct support work. I also sat on a board for my friend who had individualized funding. I was hired as a community connector role. So I worked with 8 individuals who were reaching retirement age. And my role was to help them discover places in the community based on their interests that they would want to continue spending time once they retired from their typical day program. I also did a role as a conference coordinator. So I was hired to create a conference one day in 2 locations for the entire team of people. So we brought in a guest speaker. And then I created breakout sessions throughout the day specific to employers, which were the people being supported, their staff, and other sessions for their support networks as well. I also hired for 2 little contract roles, and the first one was helping a couple who had a daughter. The daughter was being raised by the husband or the dad's sister, and so they both lived at opposite ends of the city. They wanted to move closer together. They wanted to live together, but and also live closer to their daughter.
Okay.
So after months of apartment hunting with them and, meeting many barriers along the way, we ended up being able to rent the house right next door to his sister. So today they live together next door to their daughter, who they get to see every day when she gets home from school. They get to help in all aspects of her life, and they're together now. A lot of times visits were missed because of weather, traveling on the bus, winters, storms, things like that. So now they just get to see their daughter every day.
Oh, that's incredible.
It was really wonderful. And from that experience, I built trust with them. And then they hired me to be their wedding planner.
Oh my goodness.
I had never been married myself. To this day, I have not been married. But I built enough of a relationship of trust with them that they wanted me to then plan their wedding. So wow. I was thrilled. And to this day, I'm excited because they had a beautiful wedding within budget. They were very happy, and they are still, friends of mine to this day who I put pictures. They have a picture of them at their wedding on my wall. So, those relationships that I built with people in the one-on-one opportunities that I had working with them are relationships that I will cherish for the rest of my life. They are what continually inspire me to want more and better for everybody's life. I have a passion for all people living their best quality of life. And so part of my role now as well is the fundraising coordinator piece. And so in 2018, I took a lead on the fundraising coordinator piece with the NOCLS. The previous executive director had retired after 27 years, and our existing fundraisers basically retired with him. So we just felt it was time to make a change, and to, with a new executive director, do some things differently. And so I took a lead on helping coordinate fundraisers. In 2018, I held my first 24-hour fundraiser, and we actually were able to profit $7,045.
Oh, wow.
Which we gave to a family who we had been involved with for a while. They have 2 children with very significant vulnerabilities. Years ago, they had been given a pool in their backyard through, I believe, like a Make-A-Wish or something like that. And as the girls have gotten older, the family used to be able to just sort of carry them in and out of the pool. But now they've gotten older, it's not as realistic to continue doing that. And so their backyard is down on the second level, or down 2 stories. So with that money, what was purchased was essentially an outdoor lift so that they could get from the second level of their home down to the backyard and be able to use their pool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it was really, really great. In 2018, I established our annual Canada Day Living Flag fundraiser, which in our 2018, we were able to raise or profit $5,600 to do a bathroom reno for a young fellow who uses a wheelchair, is dependent on staff for all aspects of daily living, and did not have an accessible washroom in his home for over a year. So they had to use public facilities like the rec center, pool, things like that to be able to bathe. And so through this reno and through our generous community who came together and donated so much, we fully made the bathroom accessible. And so now he bathes at home in the comfort of his own bedroom, bathroom, all of those things. Something that potentially many of us take for granted every day. So
yeah, for sure.
In 2019, our Canada Day Living Flag fundraiser raised $2,500, and we were able to give that money to a family who really needed to buy some medical equipment for their 8-year-old son that wasn't covered by funding. And so they were able to purchase a standing frame to help with his circulation and body control movements, things like that. And I'm looking forward to our 3rd Canada Day Living Flag fundraiser coming up this July. This fundraiser is one that is actually really close to my heart. Moving from Manitoba 6 years ago, this was an event that went on every year that my daughter and I and our family attended. And so since moving away, it was something that my daughter always wanted to go back for. And then a few years ago, I just thought, we live in a small community with an incredible little airport. And I went in and talked to the fellows there who are just wonderful, caring people, and they love to give back to the community. They fly for the fun of it at this point in life. And so they've partnered with me to really bring what I think is the magic of this event. So everyone comes out, you make a small donation, you get a red t-shirt, and then we form a maple leaf on the ground. Okay. And then the plane flies over and takes a photo.
Oh, wow.
And so with the pilots flying over with the plane, I just feel like it adds a little bit of magic. It makes it look like we've created this maple leaf on the ground. And it's just a really fun way, I think, to bring everybody together. I feel really privileged to be able to bring this opportunity to my community, and to bring all of our community together on Canada Day. Show your pride. It's a short event, and then go off and spend the rest of the day with your friends and family, or however you choose. So it's one that I will continue doing year after year as long as I can. And then I just thought I would share, again, just back to the pieces of relationships.
Okay.
And when we build relationships and we truly care about people, we can support them as a whole person. and some of the relationships that I've made and met, people that I've met along the way, that have really influenced me to continue going in this field and continue inspiring me every day. One of the fellows that I was really fortunate to meet early on was a fellow named Dave. And Dave spent many years living in institutions. Dave is an incredibly kind, caring man who taught me so much in the time that I worked for him. And he has continued to be a huge voice and advocate for people with disabilities who have lived in institutions. Dave was a huge part of directing a film called The Freedom Tour.
Okay.
And I highly recommend it to anybody that is wanting to work in this field of supporting people's lives. For anybody who has lived in an institution, just to get some insight into what that time was like. Now, I say that cautiously, as I also am very aware that anybody who lived in an institution may not want to watch this video. As much as Dave is a part of putting this information out there and making it known for people, he will not watch the video.
Oh, wow.
It is very troubling, the lives that people lived. And so it can be pretty hard to watch. And so I know it's something he chooses not to. But I know for me, it gave me some really great insight in being able to show compassion to people. I don't believe we can fully understand people's stories, but that the best we can do is show compassion. And so Dave also has some mobility issues. And so accessing his community independently was a challenge and also very important to him. And so one of the days that Dave and I were heading to the grocery store, and working for Dave also gave me an insight into seeing the world in an accessible way that I had not seen before, that I maybe had overlooked. Anyways, on our trip to the grocery store one day, there was a for sale sign for a scooter, an electric scooter. And so Dave and I took a picture and we shared it with his network, who then approved the purchase of the scooter. And he still uses that scooter today to access his community independently. It opened his entire world up to new opportunities of building and maintaining friendships on his own. So it was just a huge piece in his life that only happened from the relationship that we built and the time that we spent together. Margot is a dear friend of mine who I sat on her board for her to help manage her individualized funding. I had only met Margot a few times before she asked me to join her network, and I just thought she was such an interesting and lovely person that I agreed to make that commitment without really knowing what I was committing to. But I was interested in getting to know her better and learn how I could potentially maybe help her or how she could help me. And so what was interesting is that Margot wasn't particularly fond of children. I had a young daughter. So being my friend meant that she had to accept I had a young daughter as well. And what was really beautiful is that Margot just went above and beyond to make me realize that she accepted my daughter and she became a part of our lives completely. And so one of the things that Margot really wanted was to move. And so I had supported her to go apartment hunting and find a new apartment. And where she chose to move to was an apartment that had an indoor pool. And so she often invited my daughter and I over to come swimming after she moved in. And the first time we went over, she had actually gone to the store on her own and purchased some pool toys and pool floaties, things like that, just to make me aware that she accepts my daughter because she accepts me and she wants my friendship. So, we had many years of friendship. Margot's was a huge Elvis fan. And so when she moved into her apartment, the apartment she lived in prior, she had Elvis stuff everywhere. And so we decorated her dining room up so that it was basically she ate every meal with Elvis.
Oh, wow.
One of her life goals was to go to Graceland. Now, I was not a huge Elvis fan. However, we had helped her staff, as a network, we asked her staff to help Margot to plan this trip. What would it cost? How long does she need to go for? What would she want to look at? What would she want to see? Where would she stay? All of these things. And as much as we tried to get the staff to support Margot in planning this trip, it just never came together. And I think that's a piece where caring for people's basic needs goes a little, we see people as a whole person. Now we can start to see putting that trip together and what that really meant for Margot. So as Margot's friend, I agreed to help her try and put this trip together. What would it look like? How long would she go? Who's she going to go with? We didn't know. But we planned it. And then Margot spoke to the rest of the network, which I didn't know, and asked me to go with her.
Oh, wow.
It was an incredible trip that really solidified our friendship, memories that I will forever cherish. Margot was a part of my life daily, so that trip was my last trip before I moved to BC. And basically I had that trip planned with Margot and knew I was going to be moving, but I wouldn't be moving until after that trip. Margot and I maintained friendship. She called me every day. Unfortunately, she passed about a year and a half later, but she left me with many memories that I will always cherish. So
with the organization, do you work with, how many families do you work with?
So currently we are involved with about 25 different networks of people that are looking for support. Yeah, or have individualized funding and are just looking for the ongoing support, maintaining. Historically, we've always worked with adults. Up until a couple of years ago, we have a lot more families with children that are actually coming to us now because they are not wanting traditional services, but they are needing support navigating the system and how to get funding.
So you help them find the funding? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So basically, in BC, all funding for people with disabilities comes from one main provider, which is Community Living British Columbia, for anybody who is diagnosed with a disability prior to the age of 19.
Okay.
And so most people are funded through CLBC. So part of that process is putting in a proposal of hours of funding, what a person's goals are, how they're going to use that funding to benefit their life, and then going to CLBC and basically asking for that funding. So, doing different assessments and tests and things like that on their children, trying to give a very clear picture of what support is needed. For parents, I find that it can be really challenging because often we support in ways that we don't even recognize.
Okay.
And so being able to sort of, if your child was on their own today, what would they need?
Okay.
What support would they need? And so parents sometimes need a lot of support in being able to recognize where they're supporting just naturally. But if they weren't doing that, who would, and what would you need for that to happen?
Okay. So you have like a guideline, right, that you follow?
Yeah. CLBC has all of their guidelines of funding and how, how they allot funding. My values are that everyone deserves to live the best quality of life and that everyone is just as entitled to have the funding that they need. So, a lot of times it's just advocating for yourself and how the funding is going to benefit your life.
So if anybody wanted to know about your service, where would they reach out? Do you have a website and all that?
We do. Yeah. So we do have a website, which is exciting because we have just finally updated our website. It was very outdated. So NOCLS.com is our website.
Okay.
We have just recently launched that website. So we're still working out a few kinks of language and things like that. But it is, that's where you could get some more information about us. We also use Facebook, where I regularly post any upcoming events, things like that. And then our office, you can always phone or email as well.
So are you on the list of like 211, like if somebody wanted to find your service? Are you listed with them?
I'm not sure if we are listed with that. Yeah. I'm not sure. I know that because we're not a host agency, so we don't hold any funding. So typically families that if they went to CLBC or to a funder looking for funding, they would typically be told about organizations that are funded.
Okay.
Host organizations.
Yep.
And individualized funding is a bit of a different realm. In that, if you're looking for individualized funding, you can have it directly to one person, or you can have it directly to a handful of people who are family and friends whom are unpaid to help support a person's life.
And you said this organization started in 84, right?
We did, yeah.
So that's incredible, like how many lives you guys have changed in this time, right? So
yeah, it is really incredible. I did want to share one other story with a lady who is very specific to the organization that I work with. I met her about 5 years ago, so I've been here just over 6. When I met her, she was living in a home run by a host agency with other people that she had not chosen whether she lived, who she was living with, things like that. Her mom is an incredible advocate, always has been. I think she's, been 10 years ahead of the times, always. And so she was always looking for the next best thing for her daughter. And the next best thing, I think, wasn't always there yet. And so when I met her, she was on a mission to have her daughter move into her own home. And we started house hunting together. And we found a home, and we moved her daughter into this home, and we hired her own supports. And so she's been living in her home now for just over 4 years. She has one-on-one supports 24 hours a day. She is dependent on other people for all aspects of daily living. She uses a wheelchair. She has cerebral palsy and multiple vulnerabilities. However, she has a beautiful life and a beautiful personality that is so obvious now. And 5 years ago, when I met her, it would be hard to say that she had a way to communicate. She doesn't communicate verbally, but I think looking back, I think she had given up. I don't think people were listening, and I think she had given up trying to communicate.
Okay.
She was on an all-day G-tube feed at that time, so she was not able to eat orally. And basically, food was pumped into her stomach very slowly all day long, which created many barriers in itself. Just being able to access community, being able to go swimming, going to events, things like that. So one of the first things we started working on with her doctor and her mom was speeding up that feed time to make, more meal times, so that we would have 3, 4, 5 meal times throughout the day, not just an all-day feed. Yeah. And as we sped that up, about a year ago, we were able to completely remove the G-tube feed.
Oh, wow.
She eats everything orally today. We mince the food slightly, but she eats just like you and I do.
That's incredible.
It's really incredible what one-on-one support can really do for people. When I met her 5 years ago, she used Depends. She was incontinent all day. Today, she uses the toilet just like you and I.
Wow.
There is, it's incredible. The joy on her face when you understand what she's trying to communicate is incredible. She does not communicate verbally, but she does communicate very efficiently when people are listening. And so that's the biggest and most important piece that we continue to safeguard, is in whom supports her, that they're listening. And so that she never gives up trying to communicate. Again, it's little things in her life, including her in all aspects. So she has limited movement of her. She has one arm that she can use movement. She has an electric wheelchair that she can motorize herself, which is nice. But a funny story. So her and her mom were out in the yard one day doing gardening, which she loves. She just loves her home. And in a lot of ways, her life really started 4 years ago when she moved into her own home. And so they were out in the backyard. They were gardening. And mom is putting like the weeds and the stuff on her lap for her to then throw into the garbage. and she's great. She's involved. And then mom bypasses her and throws a few bits into the garbage, not really thinking much of it. It was just a little scrap things. And she lets mom know, like, don't bypass me. You give it to me. That's my job.
Don't forget
I
me.
will put it in the garbage. Don't. Yeah.
Don't forget me, right? I'm here.
That's right. And so, sometimes including people isn't the easier way, isn't the fastest way, but it really has the biggest impact in a person's life and quality of life on a day-to-day basis. Those pieces that she can be involved in. So,
and that's incredible, right?
Yeah. So
when you see the growth and you see the change, right? It's incredible, right? What one person can do.
Absolutely what continues to inspire me every day to want better for everybody, and for more people. And I realize now that I am a little bit biased and I'm not so gray in my values anymore. And I'm okay with that. I will totally own my passion for people and having their best quality of life.
That's incredible, Crystal.
Thank you.
I'm really truly honored to have you on this show, because at this time, with everything going on in the world, right, we need this. We need to know that one person makes a difference, and the next person makes a difference, and the next. We got to stick together. We got to come as a community,
Absolutely.
Come as countries, and join and make world peace with everyone, because we all shine in our own ways, right, in our own different, special, unique ways.
Absolutely. I believe we all have strengths, and it takes people getting to know us to help us sometimes discover our own strengths and where we belong too.
And it's okay to be different.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have to change that, that look on, oh my God, she's different, or they're different. You know what? They may be different, but they're still beautiful. They're still shining. They still have a message to give to all of us out there, right? So
absolutely. I have learned so much from the people that I have worked with directly, things that I wouldn't have learned any other way.
So we have some comments that are coming in, because I'm doing a watch party as well. Okay. So we have a comment from CJ. She said, great idea with the red shirts at the airport. Awesome idea. And wow, $7,000. That's awesome. And you boat ladies are doing such a wonderful thing. And a bunch of hearts. And we have a hi from Luna Dawson. I'm not sure if you know her, but
hi.
She's waving hi. So I thought that I would continue with these tea times, especially now, because we need to change our thoughts. We need to change, take the negative and turn it to a positive. And what's better way than through a cup of tea, right?
Absolutely.
So since we're on tea time, is there anything that tea brings memories back to you? Like with any of your clients that you work with, is there any special tea time moments?
I will say coffee seems to be a little bit more relatable. I tend to like tea cold. Coffee was a huge part in my role in my work with Dave, though. And I didn't know how to make coffee before I met Dave, but most of our time was actually spent over conversations and coffee at his kitchen table. So
it's that time, right? The connecting time, right?
Absolutely.
So people don't need to just drink tea with Miss Liz. You can drink a cup of coffee. You can drink a cocktail, whatever makes you guys feel good. And it gives you that time to reflect and just look over life and not think of all the hard stuff. Think of the good stuff, right? Think of the little things, because I think this is what this virus is trying to teach all of us out there, is to slow down and connect.
Absolutely. And to look out for each other. I think when we only think about ourselves and greed, I think is when we're in for trouble. But I think as we extend our arms and look out for each other, I think we can all get through this better.
Yeah. So with the organization and the fundraising, how many fundraisers do you do per year, Crystal?
So we've always held two. And so for many years, we used to have a golf tournament, which did really, really well for 25 years. And then we used to also have an art and wine gala fundraiser. So it was a smaller venue and local artists, mostly in the Okanagan, that would donate their art, and then we would auction. And most of our fundraisers went to the organization in the past, and then were in turn used to support people, right? And with equipment or furniture or houses, things like that. Over the last 2 years, as I've taken over the fundraisers, we've been fundraising directly for specific people, specific reasons. And then now, as we go into this next year, I think we're going to need to look at fundraising for us, again, as an organization, in how we are able to continue providing housing for people.
Okay.
So we look to maintain 2 fundraisers a year, and potentially, throw in an additional one here or there. But it is a lot of work putting organizations or fundraisers together, bringing people together. And we are a small organization, and so a majority of our time is actually spent just one-on-one supporting families and people.
So are you looking for volunteers or anybody to join the organization? Like,
I am always happy to have volunteers.
Okay.
And the families that I work with are always looking for staff.
Okay.
I hesitated on the always because I like to think that they're not always going to be looking for staff, but that is a part of this field as well. Different personalities. Some people click and some people stay for a long time and some people don't. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Well, we all change and move around, right? So
absolutely. Yep.
So is there anything else you'd like to share about NOCLS?
I think just as an organization, I think we continue to lead an innovative path with families. I think we really take direction from families. We don't believe it's our role to make decisions for other people. Our role is to provide guidance and resources, and what people choose to do with that is their choice. We really like to have a mutual relationship with families. We're not looking to hold contracts again in the future. We're not looking to be in host agency again. We are looking to continue on this path of supporting people with individualized funding. And I'm really grateful to every person that shares their story with me, that trusts me, and takes some of my values or knowledge and runs with it.
So is there anything else that you're doing besides the NOCLS at this time, Crystal?
That I'm doing?
Yes.
I sit on a board for another nonprofit in town here. They're specifically related to health resources for people around literacy.
Okay.
So I sit on a board for that. I have a young daughter myself, which right now she's having some challenges.
It's a lot of adjusting, right, for the little ones?
Yes, it is. But I just keep trying to remind her that this is all for the greater good. There's a reason to this, so that life can go back to what we remember it being, as we look out for each other. So, it's just day to day right now.
So are you like the teacher now?
Yes.
Now we have a great respect for all those teachers out there, right? Like,
oh yes, I already did, but we're still on spring break, so I can defer that for a little longer. But I'm not really sure, because how I was taught, I feel like, is very different than how they're being taught today. So it might be a lot of relearning for everybody.
I had that discussion with my daughter this morning. Like, I was like, we have to just stay calm and know that this is going to pass. And it's just our way of learning new lessons, right? Yeah. And we're learning as we're going as well. There's no handout book here to tell us how to do this. So everyone's doing what they can do. And, and it's a time to connect, right?
Absolutely. I believe everything happens for a reason, and sometimes we don't understand the reason, but if we can look for the positive and try to find the reason, we can have a better outlook on all of it. Yeah. So the sun is shining today. It's a beautiful day.
The sun is shining here. We had like hard rain. That's what that sound was in the background. I don't know if anybody heard it, but we had like a downpour of hard rain for like 10 minutes. And then I guess my neighbor is building something. So there was some kind of that. So yeah, there is a lot of action going on. So it's nice to see that people are still moving around, right? So
yes.
And we can get outside. We just need to keep our distance from everyone, but you can get outside and get some fresh air.
We can. And I will say that keeping distance from people is probably the most challenging part for me at this point. I am a people person. I get energized from people. So I am feeling it. I haven't been around my clan of people. And so I definitely am feeling that. But ultimately it's all for the better. So and I think it's all teaching us a lesson to just slow down.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason, the main lesson that we're all being taught right now is slow down.
Yeah.
Slow down and appreciate what we all have.
Absolutely.
The world has gotten so busy that it was just time to slow down.
Absolutely.
You know? So
yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you joining me today for Tea Time. And if anybody has any questions or anything, any comments, leave them in the messages of each of my Tea Times, and I will reach out and give these questions and comments to all of my guests who are on Tea Time. Crystal will leave information on her website and any other information that you'd like to share, any kind of things that you're doing to stay positive. If you have a board game, a special board game, put it out there. Maybe somebody can play. Somebody said the other day, Monopoly. I'm not one for Monopoly. It's too long and I never win. I'm always in jail. So it's not for me. So yeah. But there's card games out there, there's board games out there, and there are different things that are happening in each community. I know in our community, Kids Corner is giving out board games to families. People are purchasing games and dropping them off. So if you're looking for something to do with your family, check out Kids Corner. Support the local stores and businesses right now. A lot of them are suffering, but there is a thing that Kelly Bergeron has started in Cornwall to purchase gift certificates. So once this is passed, you can still enjoy these businesses. So there's ways of supporting each other in all areas, right? So you're in BC and they have incredible things going on. I'm in Cornwall, Ontario. So, and through the airwaves, we're going to make a difference and we're all going to come together and,
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate what you're doing. And I thank you for this opportunity to let me have a little bit of a soapbox.
Well, I really appreciate it. And like I said, I'm looking for any guests out there worldwide because we're all connected as one. We're not separated anymore. We need to come together and make world peace. So anybody that wants to be on Tea Time, just reach out. Crystal, if you know anybody that would like to come on, anybody that has a story, an inspirational story. Right now, we need to bring positive to the airwaves, kick the negative with positive. That's how we're going to heal. We need to stay strong. So thank you all for joining me today for Tea Time with Crystal Leese from BC. And thank you all for joining in on the watch party. I really appreciate it. Share these Tea Times with anybody that you know that needs to pick up. So Crystal, final words before I say goodbye.
Lead with love.
I love that. So you heard it, guys. Lead with love. And thank you for joining me, Miss Liz, for Tea Time. We're going to make a difference one cup at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.